Yeah. And so when did you learn that you were going to be moving into the prime minister's job? Like when did you learn that you were going to do that job?
Yeah, a few months after the election, and let me tell you, that was a rough few months for my peace of mind because I had to leave this job. And so we win, and working at the party was great, but I was like, look, we won. I would love to work in the prime minister's office. It would be super cool. And so the call came, and it worked out. And so I got there, I think, in February of 2016. And then, we hit the ground running, and there was just like so much to do, and we were still staffing up. Like, I think there were a lot of articles written at the time about how liberals their PMO was taking it slow to staff up. And, I got there a few months later, and the office was still somewhat empty, although we started filling out the slots, but it was a while before we had a few more hands on social media. So it was pretty crazy.
And so does that mean your office was out of the Parliament buildings?
Yeah, so the Prime Minister's office, the actual building called the Prime Minister's office, is right across the street from Parliament. It's part of the House of Commons. At the time, it was called the Langevin Building. The name was changed because Hector Louis Langevin was one of the architects of the Indian residential school system. And a few years ago, the Prime Minister was like, "We are changing the name of this building." Obviously, super glad that happened. And so now it's just known as the Prime Minister's office or well. So he also has an office inside the House of Commons itself, which is often where we go to meet with him or to do video shoots when it came to official messages.
Okay. And once he became prime minister, were you more running kind of both accounts still like because now you're not running the Liberal account, you're running the prime minister of PM Canada, and were you still running the Justin Trudeau account?
Yeah, so the Justin Trudeau accounts were the ones that we were running. The Liberal Party, obviously, we couldn't touch that anymore, like in government. So you're not using a government resource to do anything to do with the Liberal Party accounts. And then the account that a lot of people also know on Twitter, at Canadian PM, that's run by the bureaucracy. So same thing, we don't touch that account. So we're really focused, on managing those personal accounts. And at the time, his Instagram account, like I said, was kind of an occasional thing. And so, we took that on as well with everyone's blessing and huge collaboration of obviously the Prime Minister's photographer who's so well known and renowned, Adam Scotty, who, just like such a dream to work with when it comes to all that stuff as well. And, the Prime Minister was on board, same thing. And we're like, boss, all right, there's this thing called Snapchat. He's like, yeah, I know. Like, what do you want to do? And he's into it. But he was always very candid about the fact. He's like, look, Canadians don't expect me to be on social media all day. They know I'm not. I'm not trying to pretend I am, right? Like, he's got this communication staff that he works with, and that's pretty standard in political social media right now. Although you do have, of course, the odd unicorn who does it exclusively themselves. And do I think that's a much more effective way of running social media? The answer is hard depends there, because it depends what kind of goals you're trying to achieve as a politician.
And so how big did the social and content team or the digital team end up getting during your time there?
Not very big, my dude, because as any political social media office will tell you, there's just very short staff, right? Like, it's a department that never has as many bodies as you might expect for the amount of content that's being churned out, and that's just popular. Of course, political offices are always kind of understaffed, especially at the member of parliament level, where is it one person who is the spokesperson, communications person, special assistant, and when they have a minute, the social media. Right? Like, that's too often that's the case, and I understand that. Obviously, I do find that sometimes social goes to the bottom of the sort of hierarchy of needs in a politician's office just because of the insane.
And how many, like you mentioned Snapchat, like how many platforms were you posting on at a given time?
Yeah, I mean, it all depended, right? And at the time, because we were somewhat short-staffed, it was hard to sort of customize things for each platform. I used to say, like, we only got two hands, right? So if you're at the thing and you're trying to shoot for Snap or Instagram stories, plus do a live. At the time, live was just starting. Instagram Live. The first Instagram Live we ever did was during the PM's term. I think Malala had come to the House of Commons, so they had a meet and greet, and that was the first time we went live on IG. It was a lot, so we couldn't always post everything to every platform, and I had this really, really intense fear of failure in terms of like the platforms becoming ghost towns. oh, here's his IG that you never post to. How come you never post to? So I tried as much as we could to get a churn going as much as you can on the different platforms, but you really, that was ad hoc. Like really now to be successful, I think the most successful people have, strategies for what platform you're going to feed and water when with what kind of content. For example, at the time we started the Prime Minister's LinkedIn, you know, and he was into that, but we don't post every single time day to day on LinkedIn. The PM personally loved Quora, the question and answer website. Okay, so he's like, "Can we do a Quora Q&A?" Absolutely, boss. Let's do it. I'm into it. Yeah, but how often are you going to do one of those? So finding that strategy of like which platforms you go to when was something that it took us a while, I think, to find our rhythm. And now, what I still do things the same way? I don't know, right? Because do people want to read 1,000 tweets a day from a politician? I don't know. I really don't know. It's something that I think about all the time.
And also, this is actually something I saw in a photo. Were you still using a BlackBerry in 2017?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, look, I will say this. There was a significant amount of my personal data plan sacrificed for the country. Okay. And all of us did. Because at the time, we still had Blackberries, which like literally didn't run the social media apps. Or if it did, it would run them in snail space. So that's life, right? Like sometimes we had to run these apps from our personal phones, stream press conferences from our personal phones, just brutal. But eventually we got government iPhones, which was great. And full credit to our government IT team. They like gave us these really, really sleek devices that were quite secure. I say secure, PM, knock wood, his socials have never been hacked, which is great. Like we would literally, put it this way, we would take extraordinarily analog steps for password security, which was always sort of like our fail-safe.
And so I'm curious, like you mentioned, alluded to it a little bit earlier, but what kind of content works best for the prime minister, and how do you balance? Because you said it's kind of the personal content's him chilling at home with his dog. How do you balance wanting to optimize content for social, but also knowing that this is a globe, like a country's leader? So there's obviously stuff that you're going to have to post that might not necessarily perform well. Like, how do you balance those things, and what does work best?
Yeah, that's obviously in my job now, which I know we're going to talk about. A lot of what I talk about to audiences, almost on a weekly basis, which is how can a politician be effective while also, talking about their personal life in a relatable way on social media, and that it's not always possible. But what I said about the dog reminds me, not a lot of people know the prime minister has a dog, and the dog doesn't end up on social media a lot, which is like a weird side thought I'm having right now. But nice dog, nice dog. But I think the key is to think of it this way, right? When you are managing social media for a politician, when you are a politician on social media, I think super important. The ones who have the most success are the ones who try to come across as much as they can as a regular person who has a job in politics, as opposed to a politician who is like using their social media as an announcement machine purely for work only. And try to say, think about using social media like you like to see your friends' social media. Think about, what is relatable to you when you look at posts you like, meme accounts you like, brand accounts you like. And trust me, there's nothing cringier than those freaking brands that try to act human, on Twitter and various social media platforms. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be like brand X, telling you that their brand of coffee is Bay or whatever the hell, they're trying to do. But you know what I mean? Like I'm looking at a guitar pick right now. So I'm like, guitar picks are Bay, like nobody cares about that stuff, right? Like what's important is that you show that you're a human being, warts and all, as much as you can, without being, like I said, like irreverent or unserious in the work that you're trying to do. So when that comes to the prime minister, people were very curious about his family those first couple of years. People were very curious about his personal life, his hobbies, his jogging. There was a picture of him just like in a t-shirt from I think a brewery in Thunder Bay, and that caused a sensation because he was just like a regular guy on a hike with his family. And as the years go by and the pressures of office take over, it tightens up a little bit, necessarily so. But as much as, and I think they do a good job now, people who are in that office, obviously, I'm biased. Those are my colleagues. I think for all of the years that have gone by and for all of the crap that you go through in a life in politics, and another election has come and gone, they're still able to portray the prime minister as a guy who's just like his own guy with his own opinions, with his own life, who likes to weigh in on social and pull back the curtain when he can as much as he can.
Were you? I'm pretty sure this when Obama came to Ottawa. Were you there for that?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah, I was there. That was great.
what? What
Memorable.
was that? What was that like?
It was hectic and crazy. I think you're talking about the Three Amigos Summit
Yes.
when the president of Mexico came as well. Yeah, that was super fun. It was a crazy busy day. It was like whirlwind. I don't even think Obama slept here or here slept in Ottawa. But it was a lot of fun because you got to think that you were like witnessing this cool moment, this like unique moment as much as possible. Like Obama, you know, in Canada doing doing the thing that Canadians expect. An American president coming to Canada and showing respect and praising the nature of our special relationship, which Canadians, love and appreciate. It was something I'd never forget. And then, of course, getting to visit Obama at the White House, our first go around down there was also like just the craziest day. So much fun.
I still remember, to your point about how you guys were looking to make Justin just look kind of like a regular guy that has this job. I remember that trip that when Obama came, I saw a tweet. I think went viral within Ottawa at least, and it was like Obama took like an 18-car motorcade to get to Parliament, and I'm like 99% sure Justin Trudeau took an Uber. Like just to him, like being a regular person, like that was. I just remember that tweet sticking out because that's just the perception between the two guys. Is like Justin Trudeau's just doing the very normal person thing to get to this global summit, for lack of better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was just his perception.
Now he doesn't take Ubers, obviously, but like he would walk to the office every once in a while. I don't know if he still does, but he'd walk from his place to Parliament, just like because he does, or at least in my day anyway. He does make these efforts, like as much as he can, to just try to do a normal thing. Like he really understands that you have to do those things in order to sort of like be a little bit grounded as much as even if you're in the bubble of being prime minister. I remember, to that end, people would often insult Justin Trudeau and say, "Oh, he's selfie boy, Mister Selfie, selfie this, selfie that." But really, he would not post a lot of selfies. It's not like he would send us selfies to post on social media. But that day with Barack Obama, they took one in the office together, and we posted. Of course, it went like mega, whatever. But when people insult him as selfie boy, I'd always be like, "What?" First of all, he goes to events and people want to take pictures with him, so he sits there and he's very happy to do it. He would always say he would get energized from those kinds of interactions, whereas his father, as prime minister, was a little bit more private. But at the same time, look what you see now. Every single politician, right, left, center, taking selfies all the time, posting selfies all the time, right? Like this idea that he was sort of criticized for that never sat right with him.
Obviously, like with that Obama selfie, like you post that, this is gonna go nuts on social. It's gonna perform well. What is some content that you thought was gonna do really well that didn't? Because I found working in social, it's always like the content piece you spend 12 hours working on that will get nothing, and then you'll take like some half blurry selfie and post it that does like the best post you made the last 3 months.
Totally. Could not have said it better myself. That's exactly the experience we had over and over and over again. And I think you know the reason why, right? Spontaneity, showing something a little bit unexpected. If it's unexpected and interesting, doesn't matter how freaking blurry the photo is, people will love it, right? Because it's relatable to the way people take pictures on their own. And so from a like personal life side, of course, a picture of JT and his kids and his family in the basement, painting the walls is gonna be a huge success. And a more produced piece or infographic that we spent forever on trying to pitch Canadians on some policy that's like medicine they have to take down is never going to do well, even though it's really important. And the sort of corollary to that is when it comes to talking about policy, not just personal, right? Like the majority of the posts are about the business of being prime minister, the business of being in government. And so we'd always struggle with, man, we worked our ass off on this thing and it didn't do that well. And so, especially when it came to infographics, we learned the hard way after a lot of practice that people don't want to click on elaborate infographics on social media. They just don't. And so one day we had a really, really positive jobs report when we'd been in office for a while. And it was like the lowest unemployment in Canada in 40 years. And so I was like, like walking through the desert, starving for some engagement. And finally we had this amazing piece of good news for the country. And I was like, all right, one more try. And we just put, I think it was like white words on a red background or red words on a white background, lowest unemployment in 40. We did, and that ended up being one of the most engaged with pieces of policy content we've done in his time in office, right? Like keeping it super simple, direct to the point. And by then, there were plenty of accounts that had caught on. And I obviously have to give credit to conservative leaning accounts who are really, really good, right? Like just conveying a simple, effective message, one or two lines on a background, just get people's attention. Obviously, we're not going to talk about whether or not I agree with the value of that from an ideological perspective, but at a certain point, you have to understand that people only have one click to give, and they've only got a few seconds with their eyeballs to